All right, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Welcome to the Black First Roundtable. And today our conversation is going to deal with the making of a nigger. We're going to deal with the making of a nigger and then how to, I can't say unmake, but how to destroy that and make something all over again. And so we have an awesome panel with us today, and we'll go ahead and let them begin introducing themselves. We'll just go with Brother Ronnie first, then Sister Gwen, then Sister Neff, and then Doc last. All right, Brother Ronnie, come on in and introduce yourself.
Peace and blessings. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronnie Bourne Jr., 44 years old, combat veteran, Marine Corps, trucker, small business owner, and, concerned with the, place of my Black people here in America and, want better for my people. And I'm just here to, kind of absorb knowledge and hopefully be able to contribute. And I rest my mic.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Ronnie. Sister Gwen?
Please call me Gwen or Gwen B or Sister Gwen. Everything that I do and think is about separating our people from everybody else. And by our people, I mean Black first people, not just Black people, Black first people. I'm interested in Black first people. And some of the things about being Black first that I look at and advocate is no interracial dating or marriage or mixing, no interracial socializing except during business, homeschooling your children, be careful which religion you want to be a part of, that sort of thing. So I mostly want us to be separate because I think there's no other solution for us. That's everything I say tonight. I'll be circling back to that point. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sister Gwen. Sister Neff?
Yes. Peace and much love, everyone. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. I say that I'm a self-described girl next door, mostly for the advancement of Black thought, Black industry, Black ethnic, indigenous cultures. I'm just here to learn, to grow, and hopefully to contribute in a way that is of significance. I really like to come from a point of view that is more strategic. How do we break that down and make it work on a practical level?
All right, thank you, Sister Neff. And Doc?
Dr. James Thomas Jones III, Associate Professor of African American Studies. Here to learn, here to build.
All right, thank you, Doc. And so again, our title today is The Making of a Nigger. Now, last week we watched the program and we saw the lady from Mississippi who talked about, being a nigger. And so that part of the video still stayed on my mind the whole entire week because it was really troubling, definitely very troubling. But I wanted to go into that and look at it and come out with, real-time solutions. And I know everybody on the panel was saying that she can't be saved, and I was the only one. Oh, we can save her. And I've said this is probably one of my negative traits or shortcomings, even though I know we can't save everybody, but this right here say we can save everybody, right? So this will always make me try, regardless to what this thinks, Sister Gwen, I don't know if you remember, but you remember when me and Brother Adar went to Mississippi, touring different cities, and we wound up going in this brother's house, and I was teaching him in his house. Now, I couldn't see the chat until we got outside, and Adar showed me, and everybody was like, get out of that house, get out of that house. Get out the house quick, he gonna call the police on you.
I remember that. I remember that because we saw him, we saw his body language, and we saw him looking like he wanted to backstab, because he was in, I vaguely remember that, but I think I remember you sitting there telling him everything about what you were doing and wanted to do. And it was like speaking to Judas, you know? And the guy's a sweet guy. I'm sure he's nice and everything, but not only him, but people that you talk to. You be talking to the serpent in brown skin sometimes. Drew, I love you, but I'm scared. So those people that that are on the fence and stuff that you're recruiting, keep them in a special bucket, right? Not on the inner circle, but the circle where they prove themselves over time and through deed and word until you learn more. We can't, this is the kind of stuff that made, in my mind, agencies like the Black Panthers fail, because they were embracing everybody. We got to learn different from that. We got to learn from that mistake. It's obvious that we can't embrace everybody. Nat Turner told the wrong people about what he was doing. And we see it over and over again. Even criminals fall prey to that, because they telling other criminals what they plan to do, and next thing you know, they got a snatched up and got everybody snatched up. Okay, we gotta learn not to be embracing everybody and talking too much. Continuously in some of the meetings that we have, I say over and over again that if anybody reports back to us, only thing they can report is us trying to better ourselves, and there's no harm in that. Because I don't know who to trust, but I do know that I need to shut up and make sure that everything we do is above reproach. So whatever they report is nothing negative. And if they do try to attack us, it's based on something they made up. And long as our soul is pure, we know that we were in the right. And that's our righteousness about what we do. But we can't, but as we are moving forward, we can't let everybody in, because there are people who will sell us out literally for butter biscuits, you know, chicken sandwiches, little or nothing except praise. That lady in that video would be at the white man's doorstep at 5:30 in the morning when they first pour their cup of coffee to tell on anybody that was doing anything like you would suggest. That's a person you can't let on the inner circle. She can make your food for the crowd. I mean, she's a good grandmother, but her thoughts and things can't go beyond, you can't let her be beyond the mundane things such as household duties, you know, like who's gonna stir the turnips. She can't be in the inner circle. She cannot be in the inner circle. She can't even if you told her the truth all day long, she would approach it like Job would, which is faith, and maintain faith. She would see that as a test of faith, because she sees those European descendants as a form of angelic holiness, and she will always be subordinate to them, and she will look forward to being that. And anybody who is trying to mess with that, even if you showed her pictures all day long of the story of the Jesus icon you got hanging on your wall, she would still see that as something to worship, to almost deify. And so you can't afford her. And I love her. These are the women that made us get to this point, because they were the foundation of the Black household, who kept the children healthy and safe and clean and all of that stuff. But they also sat by and watched the children get killed on occasion and say, well, what did he do? We do that now. We go, well, what did he do to get killed by white people? You know, even with that Emmett Till thing, with that lady just now confessing. I say that even if he did whistle at her, that should have never happened. So there's no excuse. Okay, we in trouble if we're relying on her and people like her, because we got churches full of them. They are the majority.
Yeah, you know, and after you know, my little talk with him was over, and I got up and I turned to walk out the door, and right over me, he had a picture of white Jesus.
There you go.
And I said to the dog, why you didn't tell me to turn around and look? Because I could have taught him on that. You know?
And you would have just dug yourself in deeper. But that when I see an icon of white Jesus in anywhere in vicinity of you, I'm already got you on guard. I'm looking at you side eye. There's a limit to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
like when I first saw Doc, and I would look at those icons above his head of all those statues of the crucifix, I said, okay, there's going to be a limit to what I say until this guy proves himself. And then, that's what I think, though. You know, and I'm saying it now, I'm letting you know now that that's what I was thinking, and I could still converse, but there's going to be a limit. Gotta prove yourself, and he proved himself. I think about 6 of them in, I started seeing where he was saying things similar and let me know how he really thinks. At least I enough for me to trust,
Yeah. Now let me say this.
Go ahead.
My religious icons, number one.
You told me about them.
I collect angels in honor of my mother. That's number one. But also, those that I have out there, they were abandoned in the back of a wood carver's village in Accra, Ghana. And the brother looked so sad. He said, "Man, ain't nobody trying to buy Black Jesus." And he had a black power fist painted white. He said, "Man, I'm going after the crossover dollar, my brother." He said, "White people will come here and spend hundreds of dollars." He said, "Our people don't." Yeah. So he had a whole section dedicated to just white people. Yeah.
This is hard.
Yeah. I mean, he was trying to make it. I'm like, all right, bro, I'm with you.
Well, you did explain that it was in honor of somebody sentimental. Listen carefully.
That's my. I never had the urge to collect a single angel until after my mother had passed, and then I was like, you know what? Okay. So everywhere I go, and if y'all go somewhere and y'all see a nice angel, pick it up for the Black man, and I'll pay you for it, because that's what I do. I collect angels.
If I make an angel, I'll make a warrior angel, Black hood looking warrior angel.
Yeah. That's I had some of those. One of my colleagues, he came down very sick with cancer, and they actually had to remove a part of his spine. And so he's like bent over and maybe about 6 inches shorter. And he comes into my office, "Oh, brother, I ain't doing well." I'm like, "Oh, here it come. I need angels surrounding me." And he proceeds to start taking all the warrior angels. He said, "Yeah, we need to ward off these evil spirits." I'm like, "Man, why don't you take some of them praying angels?" "Oh, prayer don't work." And so
he wants a battle. I like that. That's part of it.
But this Negro went in and retired this past summer and cleaned out his office and took my angels with him.
Oh.
Exactly. So he got me.
They lose their power if they stolen.
Look here. Well,
I'm of the mindset that, you've got to kind of watch what you say, even when you're around comfortable company, with these apparatuses that we're speaking through. And even if we're face to face, there's always something that can possibly listen to you. So, if you're talking something sensitive, you have to find different methods of communicating, and that's just my mindset on it.
I'm making a shrine. I'm painting a shrine to the divine God of melanin, divine deity of melanin. I'm still working on it. That's why it's all clumsy right there. It's kind of clumsy looking. I gotta go over that.
The God of melanin. When? Yes. What? Where?
I decided there's a God of melanin.
Okay.
And so it is. That's how they decided it was a God or whatever. That's how gods are made. You decide that beings, the things that we worship came out of the human mind through divine force, revelation. So bam, I'm just as divine as anybody else that wrote something divine. So bam, I'm making this one in mine. And so this is my shrine to the god of melanin. And you see where I got the red on the inside? Because I want our blood to stay inside of us. And I want black to be having gold and green, the earth, green and gold is for wealth. And so that's my shrine to the god of melanin. I'm gonna make about 3 of these. I'm still working on them. But that's where we start at. This is just a little birdhouse that they sell already made. And it's cute. And so I'm painting it.
Well, I'm sure the god of melanin wants you to make some warrior angels.
I plan on making some warrior angels. I can do that. The divine, yes, I do think that the divine force of melanin, that is the black of outer space, is the creator. Because, and that's science. Our science already proved that we come from space dust, and space is black. So that's, to me, is the God force, the divine force of creation. Right there, it's always been there, right in front of our face. Then this melanic black, we are the best, we are the strongest representation of that force because of our melanin.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So Doc, can you go to the first video? Let's play the first video and get catch people up on the Black woman that we're talking about.
White folks were so good to me till when I got sick and disabled to work, to just come in, bring me something to eat, clothes, and everything. Fed me, clothed me, and I had a house full of children, and they fed my children. Yes, sir, I've been working all of my life, and the white folks raised me. Mister, I tell you the truth, I don't know what in the world I'd do without white folks. Now, that's the truth. And misters, I'm just a white folks nigger. I'm a nigger, and all of my children's a nigger. And all this community in here of Mississippi recognize, appreciate it, and work for the white folks.
Now, to me, she sounds kind of proud to be a nigger, you know? That kind of pride to be the white folks nigga. Doc, how long do you think it took to produce that?
I don't know. I don't know because, you know, I pause because I understand that DNA has a memory, and I'm not sure if that process predates even her arrival at birth. I don't know. I don't know. There's a tinge of Stockholm syndrome there. There's certainly indoctrination there. She's been dominated, and she in many ways knows no other path. And it's just daunting that someone could develop that viewpoint. And that's Stockholm syndrome. That's identifying with your oppressor to the point where you're going to support what they're doing, which increases your oppression and subservience. There isn't much more I can say. I don't know how long that process takes, and I would like to say a lifetime, but I've come across some Negroes that it seemed like it only took about 5 minutes for them to arrive at that type of understanding. Is it strategic to go ahead and just basically surrender and say, well, if I go along with what they want me to go along with, I'll get some intangible or tangible benefit? That hurts my soul to hear those words come out of a person and it not be a Hollywood script. Instead, it is a a script of socialization and indoctrination. That hurts my heart right there. And I yield.
Do you think she knows anything about racial pride?
No, no, no. That there's this moment where I want to say I know it was Sonia Sanchez who was talking about how her parents didn't want her to hear Brother Malcolm. And she said, you know, it's kind of like when a bit of sunlight comes through a blind and you get it, no matter how fast or tight you close that blind, that little bit of sunshine got in there and impacted you and your worldview. That analogy of truth is applicable to this woman, but the fact that she hasn't got that glimmer, and truthfully, honestly, where would she get it from? Because her entire environs are tied up in what those folk are going to allow in. She obviously doesn't have television. She probably doesn't have even radio. Her whole thing from probably from beginning to end, because it would be fascinating to see who raised her, has been about hustling and scrambling to survive. And I know that there's a level of poverty, and I'm talking about a political, a social, and not just an economic poverty that can busy people to the point where they're almost like drowning men or drowning women, paddling and kicking and moving, trying to just keep their head above water. And they have their hands full with just remaining sane, just remaining alive. And I think that many of people such as this have been dominated to such a point that they've, number one, surrendered, and number two, they know what the dance is already of how to continue to survive. So me saying, yeah, I'm a nigga and my kids, they niggas too, she means that. But it's in many ways a sociological, a byproduct of a daunting and damning indoctrination that she's going through. And like I said, I don't believe that starts with her. I believe that goes back several generations of people being dominated. And this is how, and this is really what you get when you find these people who are afraid when white folk come around. You know, I joked a couple of weeks ago, I was teaching my class outside, and white guy came and sat close, and all my students clammed up. Now, where'd they learn that from? I spoke louder. And ironically, today, the same white guy, he's teaching some type of business class. He comes up to me after my class and he says, yeah, you know, what is this class? I said, it's Intro to African American Studies. He said, would you mind if I sat in and just listened? He said, because right now I'm going through the process of becoming an alpha. And I want to learn all of the Black history that I can learn. And, you know, and I'm just kind of like, I ain't got a problem with him sitting in there, because I'm going to teach the same way, regardless of if he's there or not. But my students are going to be on edge.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to be bothered by his presence. And a part of me almost initially said no, but then there's another part of me that's like, no, you need to sit near what you deem this fire that can burn you, and to really understand that this ain't no inferno, that you actually are not only as good as him, you're better than he is. Okay, he's in his 40s trying to learn what you're getting at 19. So come on, you know. But that process of what we saw with her, that's and for those of us who are city dwellers, who have some semblance of Black pride, historical knowledge, what have you, I don't think that we can really fathom how dominated many of our people are And as somebody who's traveled through Mississippi and Alabama several times, you stop in these little towns and it will frighten you. Just even the conversation that you hear local whites projecting and hurling at local Black folk. And I yield, brother.
Mm. Thank you, Doc. I want to ask you one more question. I don't remember what cracker said it, but they said that they had closed off all avenues whereas light could enter into the slave's mind. So my question would be, if she's an example of that, what is the difference from the modern day brothers and sisters out there in the street that, lack knowledge of self? Is there a difference between the two, or are they the same thing? One is just a modern form of the other.
Yeah, I believe that what you're looking at is an updated form. And I believe that what we've done is we've allowed being socially inappropriate to be representative of being revolutionary, where you can come out and you can talk crazy, you can have all of these wild conjectures, these conspiracy theories, whatever it is that you want to hurl forward. It's no different, and it's no more outlandish, no less outlandish than what we saw in the minstrel shows. That you created a caricature of what Black power looks like. You've created a caricature of what the path to Black liberation is. And the truth of the matter is really what you're having and what the others are having who surround you is a orgy of mental masturbation. Okay, you knew from the very beginning you didn't intend to do anything. You just wanted to feel good. You wanted to appear tough. But from the beginning to the end, you knew your intention was not to produce nothing more than wasted water. It's no different. Today I have a young man in my class from Chicago, and he has the braids that he hangs over his face and all that, and he got a Chicago jersey on and this and that. And, you would think that he's sleep in the class, which for me is offensive, but I don't think he's sleep because he does participate. I needed two students, a male and a female, to demonstrate something today in class. We were dealing with the rise of Hitlerism and Nazism. And I made him come down. And he's coming down, and he's trying to hold his crotch as he walks it, things like that. And I said, bruh, you turn it off when you up here. Okay. And he just kind of went standard, and it's one of those where for us as a people, it's not new. It's just an updated form of being what Elaine Locke referred to in the 1920s as the new Negro. These people are in many ways just the new version of a dumbed down, lightless nigger. And I yield.
Wow. Thank you, Doc. Sister Gwen, I'm gonna come to you, but I want to get Neff first. Neff, are you available? Okay, I don't think she is. So we'll go ahead to you, Sister Gwen.
Yes, I'm available.
You are? Okay, perfect. So looking at the sister, or first, before I get to that, I had asked Doc, how long did you think it takes to make her? Do you have an idea? What would be your idea of how long it takes to make what we just saw?
Wow, it's hard to say, but I think it's a question that we should probably have a greater interest in answering. I do feel like this was psychological warfare as well, and considering and knowing how our open enemy works, and the patterns of how they wage war, I think it's not implausible to say that some psychopathic doctor ginned this up, put it in form of a paper, and delivered it to these people. And they were able to practice and perfect this warfare. But I don't know how long it took. I imagine probably a generation or two, which is about 50 years. So considering how long people were enslaved, considering the brutality that accompanied their enslavement, I imagine that it was a swift 50 years or so before it was the psychological races was on and would be passed down from mother to child. Yeah, so that's my thought. I don't know, but I can guess that maybe a generation or two along with the brutality.
So how long do you think it would take to inject racial pride into her or into her children where you would begin to see a difference?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scholar, but I would say it's for as long as it's happened, probably at minimum twice that time. Because for as long as you're in a thing, it takes double the effort to come out of the thing that you're in. So any type of, even if we look at ourselves, they say, I don't know, like 21 days to break a habit and a full 6 months before you can form a new pattern. You break the hold that it has, and then another 6 months to form a new pattern. Again, I think this is a field that we probably should have greater interest in, seeing what psychological warfare in terms of slavery and brutality looks like, and how thorough it was, how long it's lasted, what the different forms are. And I'm sure there's a lot of literature out there on it already, not one that I've come across or read. So if you guys have any to suggest, Dr. Jones or Professor Jones, I would be interested in hearing what your thoughts are on literature that's out there talking about the psychology of slavery. Yeah, I think for as long as we've been in this psychological warfare, I think it's going to take double that time. But in terms of breaking the pattern, I think if you look at what happened right after right after quote unquote slavery was ended, or right after Black people fought for and won their freedom in America, and you look at to where we are now, folks are like, okay, it's been so long. No, it hasn't. Considering how long it took, they were in that. So we're still now in the process of breaking that psychological hold. Is how I see it, how I interpret what's happening.
Okay. So my last question, we know that there's this thing about Black women being strong. When you listen to that sister, would you consider her to be strong?
Honestly, I read this book when I was younger. I don't remember the title of the book, but I read it, and I remember at the end of the book, the young woman who was enslaved, she, instead of going back into bondage, it was her and her young child. She had just given birth. She took a leap with that young child off a cliff. And that struck me, and I was young. I think I was like 13, maybe 12 when I read that literature. And it struck me, and it stayed with me forever, because I really battled, because she was a mother and I was a little child, but I was like, she took the life of her child and she took her own life instead of returning into slavery. And I was so proud of her. But at the same time, I was like, which one is braver? And I still don't have the answer to that. So I feel for that elder, because what is she's doing to me is a matter of survival. I see it as survival. And I think her condition is much different than ours.
Mhm.
This is a woman fighting for survival. And you hear what she's saying. If you listen to what she's saying, she tells you that you don't have to bother. You don't have to be afraid of me and my children. All of me and my household, we are niggers, okay? You don't have to worry about us. And she's not saying what she's saying for the Black folk. She's saying this to appease white people so they don't feel threatened by her and her household. That's a part of what I'm taking out of it. Because at first, I'm just like, what the, how could you? But like I was saying, compared to the sister who in that literature that I read, who took her life. So her choice, that elder that was speaking in the video, her choice is death or that. That's the only choice they have. Death, brutality, rape, murder, maiming, or that. And so I see that as survival. And I'm not sure what the question was again. Can you please ask the question again?
Was she strong? Would you consider her to be strong?
I consider her as a survivor. I consider her as a survivor because it's that or taking her life and the life of her children. And even if not by their hands, by her own hands. So if you look at it either way, that's how I see it.
Yes, ma'am. That's deep. That's deep. I wasn't even thinking about it like that. That's wow. That's deep. Sister Gwen? So let me ask you, how long you think it took to make her?
Well, her lifetime plus generations before her. And right now she's currently indoctrinating those little children that are in that household. It might even be too late for them because they're big. And the place to stop it at would be at the latest is when they're toddlers. But this is generational. And she's not only her, but she's training the next generation to be like that. It is survival, but at some point in my mind, we have to evolve. I thank her for getting the children fed and clothed, and that's honorable. But us as a people need to take off from that point forward. But what's going on now is that's perpetuating. I'm hoping that the generations that succeeded her to this modern time have at least taken some steps forward. That right there at that time, she wasn't living where there was any choice. And it is so ingrained inside of her that it is etched in stone. There will be no changing that. And she is glad, she is proud, and she's happy. And the people around her, the Black people around her, as she was telling her story about white people coming to help her, that matters, because the Black people didn't come to help her, the white people did, and such as the help that they did give. And this lady also has a survival tactic of not rising too high, because she could have cleaned up her house. Her house was a sty, and that's deliberate because she's afraid of getting too high, getting too nice. She's afraid of having anything nice because somewhere along the line, she found that nice things intimidated white people. So she kept her house a mess. She's keeping her house a mess. She's keeping her children a mess. There's a lot of things that she could have done to clean up and neaten up that didn't cost money, just effort. She could have washed the pans and put them in the thing, put them away. Got the bucket out of the floor, cleaned and swept and had the place neat. She's not the poorest person I've ever seen, but she is a poor person who didn't clean up. As our family was living in the projects, we said at least we got running water, so use it and wash something. That's how we lived in the projects. We washed things and took our little clothes that we had. I mean, you might have 2 outfits, but they were clean, and so. And even as our family, my family is from rural towns like that, and they have a history of that, but they cleaned up because they weren't that far broken. you know. So this lady is broken and she's afraid to get too high because she knows that white people will destroy her or she'll lose favor or get out of the good graces of white people. And she is very, very, very careful to stay in the good graces of white people. And as she was talking to the camera, she is aware she's talking to the camera, and she is aware that white people will see what she says. And she is so far in there that she wouldn't come out. And she would be ashamed of her sons or daughters who tried to leave or come out of that. She would fight them. As far as the question about whether she's strong, yes, she's strong, because she will believe and fight for her resolve and her opinions. And she will do anything to make that opinion stay with her. She would fight for that opinion. She would fight anybody for her right for that opinion and that position. She would be against everybody. I mean, everybody in the world and all the churches and everything could stand against her, and she would still stand on what she said.
Wow, that really bothers my soul, honestly, because if she had to go through and say those things just to guarantee her safety and the safety of her children, to let white folks know I'm no threat to you. But yet up in North Philly, where there were no white folks when I was growing up, right? There were no white folks, it was just us there. Now these damn crackers walking around there, with no care in the world up in North Philly. They go to Temple University, but it's like, damn, how could they walk so careless, so without a care in the world, surrounded by all of us without a care in the world, poor people, right? Poor area, and they're fucking, like they not a big deal. But yet it was a certain part of Philadelphia when I'm driving through, and my just like a spidey sense was just going off. I don't like driving over here. This must be all white folks or whatever. So I stopped driving that way, right? But these motherfuckers are so comfortable walking around us in a bad neighborhood that you can be robbed, shot, or killed, and they walking around like, carefree, that there's no fucking danger in them. But you take a regular black person walking around, they're looking at everybody, looking at everything, because they know, shit, I could be robbed if I'm looking too good or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, damn.
And the thing is, black people walking around that same bad neighborhood are not carefree. Black people, a new black person walking around that neighborhood will not feel carefree. This is because of the bigger American society. All white people are backed up by the American government and the American military and the American police force. We don't fight the individual white person. We have to fight everybody that's backing that white person. Do you think for a second, if they weren't backed by the American military and police force, that they would be getting away with that? But everybody black knows that we have to deal with the police if we jump on a white person, and we don't want the smoke.
Yeah, and this police are all over that place. I mean, shit, if something go down, police will be there in seconds, because Temple University is right there. And it's just crazy because everybody know that they only there to make sure that these crackers that's walking around are safe.
And they know it too. And the white person knows it. And so nobody wants to deal with the police. But if the police weren't there, they wouldn't be there. That's why you had it like it was back then. That's because nobody was backing them up and protecting them. Now, if they call the police, you got people standing on your head trying to kill you. The policemen representing. And the police force are the only people in America that can accost you, and it's illegal for you to keep walking. No stranger can accost you, and you're obligated to stop and have to hear them. You're legally obligated to at least stop when the police is talking to you, whether you want to or not.
It's crazy. Brother Ronnie? What about you? How long you think it took to make her?
I think one generation. You know, after you come off the slave boat and go through the witnessing of brutality and mistreatment and the reverse psychology of um, people treating you bad and then treating you good, so to speak. Um, and then you have a child and you want that child to survive and you teach them the ways of I guess survival. um, I think that it didn't take but one generation. You know, if you think about Roots or whatever and how they, tried to, I guess Chicken George or whatever, and you know, um, they had to make some slaves to be able to keep the other slaves in order, in line. I don't think it took but one generation, especially if you're putting a science to it. They wouldn't have had the time for it to necessarily take any longer than that. And I rest my mic.
Mm. So let me ask you, when the parents come off the slave ship and they, get together and they have children and they produce. Now, these new children that's coming in don't know anything of Africa or anything else, and then you're produce again, this group produce again, and the more that they're producing, the more they're coming away from originality, right? So then they're actually new creatures that don't know anything. How do you make that kind of person secure when they know that their life depends upon pleasing the cracker? Is there any other way to make a person whole or secure other than that?
Well, I mean, how I kind of um, they would separate you. You would separate the mother from the baby on the auction block. Right off the slave ship if they could. I just got out of the book reading. They were her property, and when you take the child from the mother and take that child into a whole nother, like that child is suckling off of someone else, right? They don't have nothing to even have a connection with the mother to even talk about security. So they're totally dependent on their new owner and their new master. So they bringing them up like a puppy, so to speak. And that's what chattel slavery was. They didn't see us as human beings. They saw us as property and pretty much animals. So they did with us like they did with animals and retrained them. And when you can get a puppy, you don't go out and go and get a full grown. And I hate to put us on that level, but that is the level that they pretty much saw us on. When you can, when you want to train that puppy up, that dog up how you want it to be, you get that dog as a puppy. So um, as far as security, when you train that puppy up to eat out your hand, that's what that dog is gonna do, and they're gonna obey what you tell them to do.
Mm. And how long do you think it takes to come up out of that, to be, I guess, to be taught or trained out of that?
Well, I think if you like look at maybe something like epigenetics and the trauma that is caused through something like that, and then when I think about maybe the mindset of Brother Malcolm X before he became Malcolm X, when he was in a different mindset, went to prison, and then came out pretty much a different person. I would hope that it's not necessarily the amount of time, but the separation from those elements and the re-education and not only in knowledge but in diet as well and nutrients, because these things, when you talk about changing of or having triggers to your DNA, you're talking about something biological. So how long, I don't I would hope that it could be as quickly as it took brother Malcolm to change his mindset or whatnot, and the way he did things. I couldn't necessarily put a time frame on it. Maybe how intense that I guess rehabilitation is, and so how long, I couldn't say. I wouldn't try to put a time on it, because I would hope that it could be as quickly as possible. So to put years on it, I wouldn't do that, because I think that we are resilient people as well. So with that, I guess I'd probably have to leave a question mark.
Okay.
Maybe a year's time. I don't know. I couldn't really put a time on it, because I don't know enough about biology and the mind and psychology to be able to give you a good answer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, bro. Doc, you want to go to this second video, the first part?
Yes, sir.
Like to have him sit and eat with me. As a result, I don't like to have him belong to a club that I may belong to. I don't elect to be.
For Judge Oba, as for most Southern whites, out of the past has come a philosophy he calls...
Say that again.
This is still the first video. We're going to the second video, the first clip.
You only sent one video clip, man.
Check again.
Yeah, because I have 3 times.
You should have 3 times, and then on top of that, the second link. I'll send the second link.
Is that
again.
the one with J. Edgar Hoover?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
That's in the chat.
Okay, this one, let me see. Let me open this up. Give me a second. Y'all
Okay.
go ahead and continue.
Okay. Let me ask you, Neff and Sister Gwen, what do y'all think it will be time? What do y'all think will be the time to teach them out of that? How long would that take?
As soon as they're young, as soon as you can. I think that it can begin the process of redefining us and re-educating us as soon as they're babies. Just tell them right information and live it and prove it. That you can learn that as soon as they're born and start that process. And just like the process got ingrained in them, it can be ingrained out. But it has to start when they're very, very, very young. Because when babies are born and people grow up, synapses are made in the brain's connections. And so each learning experience is a new bunch of synapses. And so their brains are wired to live the way that lady described, that we already discussed. But if they have a new experience, then it can be rewired to a different way. And it'll be beautiful if you can get them and if you can live it. Right now, we're doing the best we can with what we got. And I am actually proud of us for having gotten that far, because we were supposed to be perpetual in that state. And we fought our way out. I think we have a beautiful story that we're writing and living, because we're fighting our way out of that. And we still got a ways to go, mind you. And devil, demon, and demon kin are working 24/7 and then some to make sure that us and everything on the planet is destroyed, but we're still fighting out. And so I'm glad, because we were never supposed to get this far. At least we can go to the next level, telling the creator that we tried. You know, we worked on it. We did stuff. We are trying and we're working. And we are fighting for our freedom, and fighting for our planet, and fighting for this world and this reality. We are fighting for it. And everybody ain't on the battle and on the same page. Some people are still where that lady is, except they got it's remixed. It really is that latest stuff remixed. But a lot of us are coming right out of it. The Christian churches are getting more and more empty every week because we're waking up and we're fighting for our information. And the truth is right there, and we're actually able to look at the truth and see it with our own eyes and react to the real truth that's in front of us. This lady wouldn't be able to react to the truth because her brain has filtered it out. She wouldn't be able to react to the truth to save her life because it's already ingrained in her. Even if you showed her all the demonic stuff every day, all the way, she wouldn't be able to accept it. It won't go in there. She's but she helped us live. And so I had to give her credit for that. And I appreciate it. But that level in her thinking is past. So we got to build from that and go to our next level. So yeah, as soon as we get a new child, we can start teaching them away from that.
Okay, thank you, Sister Gwen. Sister Nat?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, how long would it be to teach them out of that? How long do you think it would take?
How long would it take to teach someone out of that level of psychosis?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I don't have an answer to that. I think probably psychiatrist. Is this a psychiatrist? Someone with like licensed professional who has looked at that and studied that. I mean, how long does it take to break someone out of what is the syndrome called when somebody's kidnapped and they fall in love or start to have an affinity towards their
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. How long does it really take to break an entire race of people out of a syndrome like that? Or we can even look at what it is for individuals, like what the processes that they have to go through. And I imagine that probably the work is ongoing, like that trauma, for them to break completely out of that trauma or the effects of it is a lifetime's work. So my answer would be a lifetime. Like we're not gonna stop liberating ourselves. Like there's levels to it. There's levels to the liberation. I think about my dad, who is an African man who came with a different set of overstanding as to like what the diluted notion of white supremacy was. And then he came and experienced the American version of white supremacy, or that diluted notion. And, it was interesting when my father shifted in thinking in Africa, if you can just ally yourself with the right thinking people, if you can ally yourself with people who are against corruption, if you can ally yourself with people who are about education, then you can break out of the bonds of white supremacy or Western holds. And then he came to the United States and he realized he has this thing, right? With his African accent, he's like, yeah, because we all a nigga. Like we're all niggas. And I think to myself, like, how long did it take my father to really break out of that mental state where he maybe didn't consider himself a nigga? Like when did he realize that he also had to fight for liberation, or that he was also in a fight for liberation outside of Africa? Because for some of them, leaving Africa leaving the stronghold of the deluded white supremacist, like Africa is indeed a stronghold. And so leaving outside of that, thinking he was liberated, like when did he start to regain that idea that he was still in a fight for liberation? Because at the end of the day, even in America, he was still a nigga, you know? So I think it's a lifetime's work. I think it takes lifetimes, plural.
Mm.
Can I add to that, brother?
Yes, sir.
In the same video, you had the brothers that made a pact, that were of, I guess they were the part of the FDP or a different organization other than the NAACP. So, and those brothers were still of that time and of that community and of that same kind of upbringing and whatnot. So, I think it kind of depends on the person. It depends on the person. It depends on the intents of I guess of whatever kind of therapy that person needs, and then with it depending on that person is if they want to break out of that, to break out of that mindset. Because some people, when you get comfortable, you're just comfortable, and that's where you want to be at. And I mean, that's what I take from that. Because some people are gonna wait on God, and that's what they're gonna do. And sometimes to break them out of that may cause a whole different shock. So it's not only how much time, but what experience. I would have to ask myself, for those people that have those changed mindsets, what experience did they have to break them out of that mindset? And I rest my mic.
I said I just want to push back a little bit, because if we bring, I was just talking about my father. So if we bring my father's homeland into this, we're talking about a place like Liberia. I think if Black people think once if there's a level and then you stop, I think you constantly have to be checking in with yourself. When you've lived under this type of system where this type of psychosis is so thorough that even when you break out of it, we have to continuously be checking in with ourselves to see if we've sort of mentally gone back to the same old habits. If you look at a place like Liberia, our people returned, even if they thought they were a liberated black man and woman, or they were liberated free people. They were going to Monrovia and they were finding Liberia, like that's liberty. So even in their quest for sort of this better version of themselves and the escape, they reinstated. And even in their history, they were checking in, they were checking for those things. They saw indigenous people that were still participating or in practices that they were opposed to, but they themselves were practicing, they were in the bonds of that deluded notion of white supremacy. They had the idea that they were better because they were more westernized. They were smarter, they were more educated, and they had the answers. And this is how and why you have Liberia where it is now. I think even when you liberate yourself, because we can see those who are like maybe a little bit more further back than some of us in our progress, and say, oh my God, look at them, how could they be? But in my opinion, like none of us are free of this thing until it's eradicated from the face of the planet. We're never free of it. People are talking about, you have Africans right now telling African Americans, come back and do here what you have there. Like, do we really want to do that? Do we really want to do to Africa what is here? Everybody wants Africa to be this developed place. Why? Why isn't she enough until she becomes the West? So I'm just saying the quest for liberation, the quest for freedom, that it is, again, I think if we look at the patterns of our people, you have people who get out of the bonds of poverty and make it, and then they turn around and become blackface. They're just blackface. And everything that they do resembles what our open enemy does, and what happens when our open enemy co-ops something. So I don't know that, that we ever stop fighting for freedom, fighting for liberty, and fighting to get back to the essence of what it means to be a human being.
Wow. That's very interesting, because Muhammad Ali, before he died, he said to Minister Farrakhan, still a nigga, still a nigga. Farrakhan still a nigga. And the minister said, oh, champ, don't say that. But, he said, he explained it to him. I'm one of the most famous people in the world, but yet white folks still treat me like a nigga. And that was just like, wow. Okay. So that is definitely real, what you're saying, Sister Neff. Doc, let's go to that first video and check that out.
The first weekend in December in 68, we were on our way to a Young Democrats conference.
I just remember that time we went to Jackson. There's, 6 of us in the car. Helen was driving, and we all worked on the school newspaper together. So when Don asked us for a ride to Jackson, I really didn't think anything about it.
Don Sutton was a leader and organizer. He's African-American. In the car with us, somehow Helen decides that she wants to stop at this truck stop.
On the way there, we got hungry and decided to stop at Yazoo City.
I had to change a $5 bill because I was paying for my Coke and Lucy McClung's Coke. That was a mistake.
And all of a sudden, these white men came outside and started calling us nigger lovers and whores and everything else, and beating on the glass with their fist and cans of beer. And I guess we panicked or whatever, but anyway, Helen took off. And then those men got in the truck and came behind us. A couple of times they bumped us, and blowing the horn and flashing the bright lights on us. And we really got scared because we thought, well, if we go over, we're goners.
By the time I got out, Helen and Joanna and the rest of my party weren't here. Who was here was a woman in a 1959 rusted Plymouth Savoy with a wheel on back. And this man by then, I think, had spat on me and poured a beer on my head. And I said, is that any way for a gentleman to talk to a lady? At which point the woman got out of the car and said, lady, why ain't no lady would ride in the same car with a goddamn nigger. Why, you ain't nothing but a goddamn motherfucking little slut. And so she hauled off and slapped me. And I was shocked. I couldn't understand the sexual repercussions of this at all. And Lucy and I had sat at the curb, and I was praying, and Lucy was crying. And she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm praying. And I said, okay, God, you see what's going on now. You're coming down here, aren't you? And the guy who owned the truck stop kind of kneed me in the back and said, get up and start moving. And I guess down there was where, down that ravine, is where we were directed to start walking. I looked over the hill, and suddenly I saw a silver blue Mustang coming over the hill, and I realized, oh my God, it was Wilma Blackman from Delta State, just showing up out of nowhere. I flagged her down. She stopped and said, get in the car. I was wearing a wig at the time, and it was wet from the beer. And I tipped my wig to the mob that was gathering. wished them a Merry Christmas and got in the car, and we took off really, really fast. Now that was an absolute miracle that she showed up that night in Yazoo City out of nowhere. I had to thank God that that happened.
Okay, so that little clip in Yazoo City was one of the cities that we toured while we were in Mississippi. This was hearing them talk about what happened to them during that encounter. Kind of had me like, really? What? You know, the whole pouring the beer on them and you nigger lover and all this. And all they were doing was giving the boy a ride to Jackson because they all was in school together going to a meeting together. And so something that minor put all of their lives in danger, so much so that, you know, they got in the car and drove off and left those two right there and didn't turn back around to see that. So I want to ask y'all, what was your thinking of it? Doc, starting with you.
You know, my thing is that you're dealing with a lawless, unregenerate evil, and it's nothing to play with. You know, these people are playing for keeps, and the truth of the matter is that for far too long, especially when you're talking about this time, they have the law not only on their side, often they have the law riding right next to them or in the car behind them as part of the lynch mob. Prayer works. That's all I can say. That God sent the answer, an escape path through this young lady pulling up in her car. You know, but all in all, you know, we have to not be naive. We have to definitely not be stupid in regards to the moves that we're making. You know, one of the things that I consistently tell my son is this, that I don't want to live in a world where he doesn't exist, because I know I would go insane. Let me say that. But a part of this is also we got to make strategic, logical, intelligent moves to avoid some of the things, some of the traps, some of the snares that are going to come our way. Because the truth of the matter is, I mean, we can look at Ahmaud Arbery right now. That brother's dead.
Yes.
And we're arguing about how long these people, his lynch mob, that chased that brother for over 5 minutes, okay, how long they gonna get? Regardless of what they get, regardless of if they had been executed, regardless of how they were executed, it wouldn't be justice. Because justice would be them taking his place in the grave. And until we start really seriously understanding that these people are demonically possessed, those people who went up into the Capitol, it is as if they were under some type of demonic spirit. Now, it broke when their asses got arrested and they came to their senses. But in a mob, when in the majority, there's no telling what these people can do. No righteous person could even begin to fathom what it is that goes through their minds, their hearts, their spirits, and what leads them and guides them to execute it in the physical realm. And I yield, brother.
Doc, did you believe, or did you think that there were at least limits? Because I thought that there were, you know, limits that they would not exceed, especially, you know, maybe not with us, but with their own. You know, these were just children. I mean, they were teenagers. But they didn't give a damn.
I mean, the limit is they're not going to kill you twice because it's not possible. That's the only limit that they have. Come on, these people are the personification of evil. That's what it is. And we can sit around here and we can talk, we can debate it, we can, you know, we can jogatize about it. No, let's get down to the brass tacks of it. That These are people who, for whatever reason, and it does not matter to me if this is some type of cosmic, supernatural beef that we had in another galaxy that was brought here to Earth. What is what is, that they have historically wanted to exterminate us. And unless their own kind deal with them, I have no choice but to consider them all coming out of the same camp, because they're all wearing the same uniform.
Wow. Thank you, Doc. Sister Neff, what's your thoughts on watching that video, watching that clip?
It's funny. I guess I'm too radical sometimes because like, I'm just like, I don't give a damn like what y'all experience. I don't care. Like, you know, you were fighting for what and you had a chance to leave and you prayed. And I just, in the face of the stories that I really want to hear, like I'm gonna need you to go tell that story to some white people. Like I don't care about what those white women went through for giving a ride to a Negro. Like, and the reality is that they walked away and they went home and they were able to carry on with their lives. That's what I take away. And never again, unless they were to ride with another Black person. Like if after that they ended with, and we did it again and again and again, then I would be like, word, let's talk about that. But you did it once and you had that experience. And the reality is you probably never did it again. But every day after that experience that you had, every day before and every day after, a Black person had to live that every day. So as far as their, you know, witnessing or being a wallflower, because that's how I hear, when I hear that story, I'm like, okay, you were a wallflower to violence. What do you want? An award? I don't know. I don't know how to take that. I don't know how to put that into proper context. I don't know. I'm sorry, y'all. Ask me another question, please. I don't care about what those white women experience. I don't know if there's anything good that I could take away. Maybe somebody else could help me out. What is there to take away from what those white women had to share? I don't know. I don't have anything I can take. Not for me personally. I'm struggling to find something to take away from their story. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. It's all good. Thank you, Sister Gwen. What you take away from it?
I've heard those kind of stories before, and I call those the how I help somebody Black stories. And I usually heard them in person. And this is where white people recognize that you were somehow powerful or influential in some capacity. And they go into what I call ingratiate mode, where they want to be your friend in some capacity. And so what they do would be at the end of the day or something with no other white people around, they come creeping out to tell you how they helped somebody Black. They marched in the civil rights thing. They done did something favor to somebody Black. So I'll think good of them. And so that's what I call those stories. These women that did that, whatever they did, I'm glad that they went through the effort, but they lived at the end of the day. And she's right, and Doc is right. They still lived. There are a lot of those stories, but I still think they're demons, and that's just to confuse you. They still got to wear the mantle of demons until they, if and until they straighten themselves out. I'm done. I don't care how they help somebody Black. I want somebody Black to get away from them. But in the civil rights movement, we had to go through that to prove that it didn't work. So we ought to move forward, go beyond that, and leave the nice people who help somebody Black to help white people clean up themselves so that they would stop being demons.
Yeah. Yeah. And Sister Gwen, like, I think a part of the issue I have with it is that it, like you said, it takes the it I don't know. It almost gives, like, we're not all like that. You know, that's what it gives. Like it gives it gives them an out.
Mhm.
Gives
And
them
that's to confuse us.
right.
And
And
we cannot resolve.
right, and that's the part that I don't like. Because
Yeah.
unless you were fighting and literally, like, you know, like the white dude in Django doing that, like, I don't care. Because the fact that you participate, you all participated in this.
Yeah.
No, so unless you were, I mean, and at the end of the day, right, I do, this is just a radical side of me talking, because I think if I was in their position, would I do the same thing? Am I doing the same thing now in my life? We have all of the people without homes every day. And if it wasn't for growing up with a father who was like, you, a part of your tithes is to make sure that you have money in your glove compartment, because every time you see a person on the side of the road, you take that tithe and you pay it to them. You give them the $5 or you give them the $10. So in what ways do we passively participate in crimes against humanity? Right. So I think that I'm judging them. Is it fair for me to do so? No, because I think we all participate in it. But I'm saying, like, passive participation is still participation.
And at the end of the day, this whole society still is negative to Black people and people of color in general, and Black people specifically. So remember that even though these women are doing their thing, they aren't doing it well enough to change the way the society works. And so it don't count. Bless their heart. Ooh, excuse me. That's why I look at it as weakening your resolve. Now, and fortunately, we've already lived through them doing that, and we see that that don't work because it doesn't change the overall society. So they play, that's part of their game that they play, where they do something nice to you specifically, but they haven't changed the way things vote. They haven't changed the Supreme Court. They haven't changed the legal system or the police system. None of that has changed. They are still abusing us.
Right.
So
Absolutely. If you're not coming with that Antifa energy, you can miss me. Miss me with bullshit. You got to be on some Antifa type level for me to get down with you. I want to burn your own shit down. Yes. Now we're talking.
They got to change their votes. They got to do something to start from the top down. And they haven't done that. And so these same people who want you to think favorably of them are still living in a system and supporting a system. And I say support with the capital S. They're supporting a system that still oppresses and abuses us, but they don't want us to think bad of them, which is a demonic thing. I think, look at that, it's very, very, that's like demon acting 101, who want to commit the crime and live that life, but don't want to have you at least hate them. The least they can do is hate you, you know, or think ill of you. And they don't even want that.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Sister Gwen. Brother Ronnie?
Hey, you know, when you're, you know, I guess, you know, those, when you do anything to assist Black folks, they consider you as a traitor. And it's like, you ain't no white buffers for us. You know, you might as well let them white folks stay over there. For one, you know, just like in the first video when they, you know, the priest had his hand in forming the group that was supposed to make some changes within Natchez, Mississippi, and the NAACP having their hand in it. And instead of the locals going to the commission or the committee and making changes, you had interference. I also think about Mississippi Burning, or that movie where the three people were killed. You might as well just let them white folks alone, because that's just gonna bring more attention to you anyway. It is no sense of compassion within them folks. Ain't no white person gonna be able to speak for you to keep them other white folks off your back. And we in this by ourselves. And so to kind of eliminate all chances of things being undermined or whatnot, or unnecessary attention brought to you, you need to kind of cut certain ties, or cut those ties, in order to stay focused and have your resolve. And I rest my mic on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Since you brought up Mississippi Burning, let me just ask you real quickly, dealing with that, because they always bring up the white boys that died in that situation. Me personally, I don't give a shit that those two died. But do you think that is something to be, oh, they died? How do you interpret that?
No, like I said, it brings you undue attention. Like, would they have even stopped that car if it was three black men in it? Would they have seen them as I guess troublemakers or whatnot? Because you got to look at the enemy, right? You got to look at what the enemy looks at. And I don't get up in arms when the white folks die at the hands of other white folks, or when they die at the hands of black folks. Like I said, it brings unnecessary conflict and double-mindedness. It brings unnecessary attention. It brings unnecessary voices that are in your business that don't need to be in your business. Because with that comes a sympathy, right? These folks been working with us. Maybe we should skip their house. Maybe we shouldn't, do this or do that to these folks, when you really have to, handle things as a whole. Even I guess Nat Turner went back to the house or the mansion of the girl that he liked, and he had to take her out too. So, in order to have a focus, I mean, you have to not have these other elements that will take you off focus. And I rest my mic.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I know one thing for me, I don't believe in redemption for them. I don't believe in, they can be saved or any of that crap. They got to go. They've earned what they've gotten. And I also think that, and I do give all the Mississippi people that came from, the up north or wherever and bust into Mississippi, I do give them respect, because they marching their ass straight into death. I mean, good Lord, you are literally challenging these people to go kill you, and you ain't gonna do shit about it. You ain't even gonna put up a fight. You're gonna just accept it. I mean, that's just crazy as hell to me, but that was their strategy to. I don't. I think you should love your life more than that. I really do. Neff talked about Antifa. I respect Antifa. I like them. Go kill up as much crackers as you want to do, handle your business, burn it all the hell down. I don't give a shit. You know, take them all out. Do what you got to do. Doc, let's go to the next segment in the video.
I was living in Fugler Hammett dorm, and I dreamed that I woke up in the middle of the night and was walking down the hall, and in this dream, I knew when I was going down that hall that I was about to see God. I walked down to the hall and got to the corner. At this intersection, I saw a black hand coming around the corner, and I realized then that that was the hand of God, and God was black. The next morning, I told everybody that I had had a dream and that I had seen God, and God's hand was black. And what if God is black? We may have a lot of explaining to do, and we had better be cleaning our act up as much as we could. What I learned from that dream is that God was a color so beyond my experience and my comprehension that my little trifling white world didn't have to do with what was holy and what was divine. That what was holy and what was divine was in the invisible, the part of society that was right in my face and it was overlooked and discounted. That in the poor sharecroppers, in the souls of black people, was the power and the spirit that would be strong enough to carry a whole movement for social change, and a spirit that would change American history.
All right. So that anything in that clip that surprised you, or that you would hear the cracker say, and how do you interpret what you just heard?
You know, it's one of those things where, you know, every once in a while a person gets a glimpse, an insight into something beyond. You know, Du Bois talks about a veil coming between him and the white world. I think that you see a lifting of the veil from time to time amongst people who are truly open to learning something and to understanding that what they're seeing in the physical is not the entire picture. I believe that that happens a lot more than people let on, but I also believe that societal constraints, be they socialized into you not to say anything, or you just don't have it in you to tell the truth and to be righteous. I believe that those are the two barriers, especially when you're talking about people who are in the quote unquote power position, that they have a very difficult time relinquishing that for any reason. So nothing really surprised me. Um, I know they looked at that white woman like she was crazy though. When she said that she saw the black hand of God, they probably wanted to say, yeah, okay, we're gonna go ahead and put her away. So if anything, that surprised me that she would say something that scandalous.
do you think, the day that she sees that revolutionary Messiah that you talk about, and he is black, how do you think these crackers are going to? I mean, how do you even? Because I don't even know how they would even respond. Fall out and have a heart attack to see that God is black and they've been terrorizing his people. How do you think they would respond seeing that?
I believe that the way that they're able to twist and turn the truth and justify what it is that they do, that they would get before the Most High, not apologize for anything that they've done, but explain to him that they knew it the entire time and that they were just being tools to prepare his people by putting suffering and stripes on their back to prepare them for a eternal life. So ultimately, in the end, they were tools of the Most High and on his side. That would be their explanation, I believe. Now, is it BS? Certainly. But these are people who would rather rule in hell instead of in heaven. And rest assured that as wicked as they've been here on earth, ain't gonna be no baptism that occurs that removes that when they go to heaven. If they, it's just not. And I think that we do a lot about what we think heaven and the afterlife is going to be like. And one of the things, just for example, is that you won't have to work. Who told you ain't gonna have to work when you get up there? That you're gonna be sitting around drinking mint juleps and getting the angels to do your work for you. Nobody's ever told you that. So, but I do believe that they would come up with a sly, slick way to try and bamboozle the unbamboozable God himself. And I yield.
Thanks, Doc. Sister Neff, what did you take away from what you saw?
I actually really like that white woman. Now that's my kind of white woman. Truth tellers. Yeah. I mean, it reminded me of Paula White calling the angels out of Africa to come and help Donald Trump. That's what that reminded me of. When that white woman stood on that stage in front of an audience of white Bible thumping Christian evangelicals and told them that they needed to join her in calling the high angels up out of Africa to come.
What?
And help Donald Trump win that election. I think we all do, because I'm a Christian girl, and I think there's a scripture that talks about that the truth is written on our hearts. And so when you talk about human consciousness, right, like, white people love to philosophy, because they can justify things, like the idea of conscience, the voice of God speaking to you and letting you know that murder is wrong. That you don't need to be nurtured into knowing that murder is wrong. You don't need to be nurtured into, even a baby knows the difference between right and wrong. The baby knows that if, it does something or moves towards a certain direction and there's a cry out, that it means to take caution, proceed with caution. Like children even innately come out of the womb understanding that, without necessarily needing a whole lot of socialization. So to me, like, folks know the truth. And especially being that they have access to all of the truth. Like, for example, right? White people in America been knowing their government was fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Been known this. Been known that the government was building institutions and using those institutions against its own citizens. Been known that. But as long as those citizens were not them, as long as it was someone else, it was the buffer between them and the brutality of their systems, they were fine with it. As long as the system didn't turn on them. And so what I'm saying is white people been known the truth. They've been known this. So when people come, they'll come into conversations like, educate me. That is the most violent statement a white person can tell me in the modern day and age. Educate you about what you know. Educate you mean do the thing that has been denied to me and my people for generations. I should then take it instead of giving it to my people and give it to you. You're fucked up. You got me fucked up. And so I think that this woman was just, she was doing that rare thing that white people do, which is to tell the truth. Just tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So that was what I interpreted. And every now and then they slip up, they jump off code, and she's lucky that she's not she's not dead. And even in today, now that all of a sudden white people know about the harms of what is that thing the government do when they do lab tests and test biological weapons, gang of whatever, like they're just now all of a sudden awakened to this, when they've been knowing that their own governments have been has this as a potential way of coming against its quote unquote enemy, and that's anybody that's not white. White people all of a sudden knowing that vaccinations potentially could be used to get them into some type of compliance and take away their sovereign rights. When they were watching it happen, Black people have been screaming like we were crazy for hundreds of years, especially in America and all over the world, screaming this to white people in their face, and they're just carrying on like there's nothing wrong. So every now and again, this lady, the rare occasion, white people come out and they just say the truth. And I think this was an instance of that.
I don't know if you're familiar with the little white boy who had died, and they brought him back, and when he woke back up, he told them he saw Jesus, and Jesus was Black, and he kept repeating it. So they put him on medication because they're saying, oh, he's going through some mental issues. He died and came back, and now he's saying Jesus is Black. He's going through mental issues. It's no hiding that they know the real deal. It's no hiding. They know the real deal, and they know damn medication gonna stop the truth from being what it is. We are God's people. And Neff, do you think on that day when they have to stand before the God, as Doc say, that they're gonna blame it on the God? What do you think? How you think?
I actually love that response, and I actually think Mr. James Jones is telling the truth right then and there. I think he understands white people way better than I do, because I never would have even thought about that. Yeah, I think I would agree with his answer. I think that was the correct answer, that they would say, it was all a part of your plan and your will to prepare your people and cause them to suffer enough that they would know the difference between earthly things and spiritual things. As a matter of fact, we helped you, God. we helped you to do the necessary things to make your people know you and know you only. In fact, if it wasn't for the harms that we did, they would be worshiping stones, They say it now.
Right. Good answer. Thank you, Sister Nat. Sister Gwen, what did you get from it?
I agree with both of them. I want to add that I actually think that they would just be going back to hell. That nice lady, though, she was trying, at least she tried to voice the truth. And bring a different insight. The thing is, though, is they know that those pictures that they see in the Bible that they put there, because no European country is actually in the Bible. Nothing about Europe is in the Bible. They didn't get to be in the Bible till they put themselves in the Bible by painting pictures and putting them up on the wall and depicting themselves as the people in the Bible. That's how they got into the Bible. They put themselves there. But to do that, you got to know that you weren't there at first. And they know that they are not in the Bible. They know that they are not God's children or any deity's children except one of the northern deities. But they are still going the way they're going. Like, for example, the example that you talked about with the little boy who's telling that God is different. They don't care. Okay? You are offending God if that's what you're going to believe in as God. You are offending that deity if you are suppressing its identity, right? Wouldn't that be a sin? If you know that the truth and then you are pushing it away, that's evil. That is an evil action that they consciously do and did, and they are still doing because they don't care. They're not children of God. They are children of something else. Mm-hmm. And they are going back to there. They don't plan to go to heaven. They do not plan to go to heaven. This is part of their argument and their game. The devil switches labels. So even the people who think they're praying to God aren't praying to God. They're praying to the devil. Devil switches label all the time. So you got to look at the deed. So ignore the title, look at the deeds. These ain't good deeds. These folks around here that say they believe in God ain't doing good deeds. They are obeying a different label. There's somebody, an evil thing to switch labels and titles. So you can't even go by the label. Okay, these people don't care. They plan to go to hell. They're living like they want to go to hell, and they want to get the employee bonus for hell. Deeds. They do. They want certificates of appreciation for the evil stuff they do. So they are going eight stuff for doing evil and bad stuff. They don't mind. They don't care. They don't plan to go to heaven. We plan to go to heaven or someplace good, but actually I believe for heaven's sake, is that you go to where there are people just like you. And I would rather go with people just like me than the people that think they're going to heaven now. I don't want to go to the same place in the afterlife as many other people who think they're going to heaven are going. I want to go somewhere else because I don't even like them people in real life. I certainly don't want to spend an eternity with them. So I want to go to a whole different place than the folks that are praying to the place that they are going to. I don't want to be associated with those people who's got all that God stuff preaching and running around and doing all that. I'm scared of them. I don't want to be in eternity with them. No, the televangelists and the people that are praying in them little church clothes and stuff and all of that. I don't even want to be where the Jehovah's Witnesses are.
What do you think that they're going to on Judgment Day and they have to stand before the God? What do you think they're responsible?
My philosophy about that is a little bit different. Our brain, in my mind, our brain is a mental filter. It filters out the truth, because if we actually saw what was real, we wouldn't be able to handle it in the biological life form, because everything about this matter and this biological unit is designed to keep itself living and to keep itself healthy. If we saw what the real truth was, that the filter, let me back up a little bit. The reality in the mental, in this plane that we're living in, we're not seeing everything that's there. We're not even interacting with everything that's actually there. Very often, very rare, what Doc just described, pulling away the veil, we might get an insight of what's there, where we might accidentally see or hear some long dead relative or some kind of dream that's prophetic type dream or some kind of extrasensory perception, but it's rare because it's filtered. We're not seeing reality. There's a lot of stuff all around us that we can't see or even interact to. This brain, our brain, filters that away so that our biological unit will keep producing and living, because we can't handle it as on this physical plane. This biological unit in our brain as a filter helps us to lie and not see reality. When we are gone and our biological brain is no longer there, we can't filter anything. So everything that we react to will be a truth. And we won't be able to lie because everything about us will be revealed. We won't have the capacity to lie or be in denial. So they won't be able to spin it. They might want to, might think about spinning it, but they won't have the capacity to. That's what being a real soul is, not having the capacity to spin. The brain helps you spin. Yeah.
I want to agree with you 1,000%. I actually had an experience through a dream where that filter was removed.
Mm-hmm.
And what that filters out is for our own protection. Mm-hmm. To the point where when it's removed, you yourself will cast yourself into the pit of hell. Mm. And so that's what I experienced. And it was a reveal of my own life. It was sort of like I actually had a dream, an out-of-body experience. I wouldn't say it was a dream because I woke up and I still had to shape myself back into reality, is how intense that was. But it was a process of things that was being revealed about my life, different decisions and actions that I had taken. It was so intense that I had to stop it. I said, please stop. It's okay. I surrender. I'll go to wherever you need me to go. So I believe what you're saying, and I believe that people themselves will cast themselves after their own life is revealed to them. They will be the ones to subjugate themselves to whatever punishment they think is necessary, because what you experience when that filter is removed is so intense. It's so intense. It's inhuman. I literally had this dream, and once I came out of that, I was like, and it's something that your life is revealed to you. All of the things you don't see, all of a sudden you see it. All of the things you didn't see, for example, for me, it was, I think at one point I had, I was a mother who was allowing my child to sort of watch TV and using that as a way to escape mothering. But the depth of that decision, the consequences of something that simple, it was so, the revelation was so intense. It was just that even in that one moment, you can imagine a whole lifespan. If something like that minute and the depth of it, you get to feel the weight of it. Anyway, I just want to say I agree with you 1,000%.
Well, what you did was have a blessing, because your subconscious revealed to you the truth temporarily so you can take a measure. Yes. A lot of us are lying to ourselves, and that's why I try to be real clear with my subconscious so that I be on the same page about the weight of my decisions as they affect me, and be comfortable with it, because I don't want to have that big reveal in the afterlife. Yeah. And so you want to be on track. And so you were blessed to have that thing revealed to you during that time so you can make some changes and a reawaken and try to fix yourself up to go in another direction, because that's what your brain is for, is a filter and keep you alive in this biological unit. And when you are, in my mind, in the afterlife, you will take your own measure and send yourself to the appropriate place. Yes. Because you know what you did and you can't lie to yourself anymore. Yes. And so that lady, I'm glad she saw that. It's more than that was put on by her subconscious, and a bit of reality that got through. And I'm proud of her, but she got a long way to go, because this society is still under the rulership of people who they have no affinity to true heaven or anything good.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Sister Gwen. Brother Ronnie, what'd you get from it?
Nah, I mean, I mean, it is what it, something was revealed to her. That's all I get from it. I mean, I don't get too in depth on nothing like that because, I mean, I feel like, if we're the original man and God made us in his image and, it is what it is. I mean, when you have a people that use the Bible, right, to subjugate a people, and then all the things that they try to take from the Bible to make you feel like you supposed to be a slave, and how they tried to hide behind, you had to be a special kind of evil for that. So, I don't really, it ain't a whole lot I need to say on her and her, whatever her revelation was. I rest my mic.
Yes, sir. What do you think about, Brother Ronnie, like the dude Jowers down there in Memphis, who when they charged the government with conspiracy to kill King, and him on knowing he was dying, he decided, well, I'm gonna tell the truth now. And because of his confession and pointing out, well, yeah, the government did this, and these people did this, so he confessed it all, thinking he was going to go to heaven. Do you think that there's a heaven for him since he made his quote unquote confession to tell the truth?
Well, I mean, that woman that confessed that about her part in Emmett Till confessed. Another woman confessed that she blamed she said that a black boy touched her only because she was jealous of his sister's dress. So, I don't put myself in the seat of God. I let him do the judging, and I just ask that, he uses me as a vessel to do what needs to be done here on this earth, whatever it may be. So, that's my viewpoint on that, because I mean, that's just from, how I am. I try to look at a person's actions, you know, as far as for me, I wouldn't have forgiven her. You know what I'm saying? You kind of late, and we be in those rooms with Sister Danielle, so I think you kind of understand where I stand on forgiveness and apologies and stuff like that. So, but like I said, I try to let God be God, and I just ask that He uses me as a vessel. And I rest my mic.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Ronnie. Doc, let's go to the last part of that video.
In Gainesville, Florida. I was ready to get out of Mississippi. I had someone to travel with. I was ready. Within a couple of years, I had Joan. I remember that Lewis used to be upset after we were divorced and been out of shape because she'd be playing with my little black baby dolls. So, God, Lewis, don't be ridiculous. But over the years, Joan always had African American friends, and if she ever had a white boyfriend, well, she never told her mother about it. Now I'm the grandmother of two biracial grandsons. These little boys are holy, they are sacred. And when I think about the struggles that they are going to face, being identified as African American in this culture, the racism that I grew up with in Mississippi, and the Southern whites who perpetuated it, have been on my mind, and I wondered, what am I going to tell these children about their Southern white heritage? I want to tell them about my father and how different he was. But what if they ask me how he died? And I realized how little Garnet and I knew about Daddy's death and what really occurred there.
All right. So that was the last clip of it. As you can see, her husband did not appreciate the mother giving her daughter black dolls to play with. And so she grew up playing with black dolls. Next thing you know, she got dealing with black men, produced black children. Doc, what do you say about all that?
You know, I'm a good old country boy. It ain't never made me sad. It's always made me glad when the chickens come home to roost. Very good for them. You know, I hope that their souls aren't able to rest wherever they're at. I believe I hope that they're in eternal turmoil in regards to that. You know, there's something to be said for unregenerate evil. And there's something to be said for the righteous indignation that the righteous are able to place upon unregenerate evil. We have to hate them and to protect ourselves. And at the exact same time, it doesn't preclude us from having an opening to understand that those children are children, they're humans. But at the exact same time, I weep for them to be carrying the DNA of individuals who were truly the scourge of the earth. And I hope that DNA remains latent and is never activated by anything. And I yield.
Thanks, Doc. Sister Neff?
What's the question?
Well, how did you, for the last clip, what did you get out of that? What did you think?
I see that white people try to absolve themselves in so many different ways. She talked about, what do I tell my mixed race grandchildren about their connection to this brutal history? And she's like, well, I would tell them about the part of it that's good. I'll tell them about, their grandfather who was a better man compared to the rest of the family. I don't know. So that's one thing. And then the other part that I heard was, that I saw was, the idea that if I can procreate with Black folk, then maybe that it will absolve me. And at the end of the day, I still feel like that's violence because you're making children. Yes, we can refer to them as Black children, but in truth, they're not Black children. They're mixed race children. They're no longer Black children. They weren't produced by a Black womb and a Black seed. It was produced by a mix of two different human beings. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if we're speaking specifically to people who are part of, whether passively or not, the crimes against humanity, against Black people, then absolving themselves by mixing with Black people and thinking that absolves them. In truth, it adds to the issues ultimately, because that's one less Black child. That's two non-Black children. That's two mixed race children. But I just saw different ways in which white people try to sort of fix the problem. And I think the best way to fix the problem is to tell the truth about the violence that have been done against Black folk, especially here in America, and tell the truth about those who were passively or directly involved in that, and never stop telling that truth. You don't have to do anything else but to tell that truth. You didn't need to give your child Black dolls to play with. You could have simply told her the truth about the crimes against humanity, which many of you were complacent in. That's it. And your daughter ultimately didn't need to go and I mean, to procreate with a Black man to prove what? I don't know. Love is love, and I'm not against people loving and procreating with whoever, but I do want to be clear that some of these people are procreating with Black people to absolve themselves of the crimes that have been done against Black folk by people from within their own family lineage.
You know, there was a on YouTube a question and answer thing, and the question to the white woman was, what do you want to do if you want to see yourself into the future? And she said, have a baby by a Black man. And to me, that's really offensive because I don't want to see them in the future. I don't want none of that. I want it cut and dead, dry, right there. But they know that if they can get with us and produce that baby, then they'll live. They'll live. Sister Gwen, what you think? What you get from it?
First thing I was thinking was at least she's consistent because she's been starting, she's been on that track since she was 19 or so. So I wasn't surprised when I saw her having mixed race grandchildren. I was sad for the child because I know they have a more difficult road ahead because they don't belong to any nation. They don't belong to Black people or white people. Biracial children, if they live and marry Black and identify as Black and understand that they will be recognized as Black, that's one thing. But that's not the case with these young men. They're being raised by a white lady, and so I'm sad about their journey. I'm wishing them all well, but they won't be capable of being Black first. And nor is the father of the children Black first. So that's not a part of my nation. They aren't, nobody in there. They would have to be in a buffer zone or something. About Sister Neff is right about telling the truth. Yeah, there's nothing to spend. Give them all the books, give them a library card, and let them go research and learn for their own selves and make their own judgment. It's still demons at work.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sister Gwen. Brother Ronnie?
Yes, sir.
What did you think from the last clip?
I mean, you know, I don't.
Then let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Do you think that because the mother was giving the girl Black doll babies to play with, and so the daddy didn't like it, but the mother was doing it anyway. And so she grew up, and next thing you know, she was, boyfriends were always Black and produced interracial babies. Do you think playing with doll babies that sort of put the little girl in that thinking of, be with a Black man?
I mean, possibly. I mean, probably. I think when you go Black, you don't go back. And I know how strong and how powerful our people are. And that would be something that, I mean, when they had us on the auction block, I'm pretty sure the women were looking. Same with the men looking at the women, and probably, other things as well. So, if we say that they already know who we are, right? Of course, they really want, if they, that's just who we are. If they know that we're really, in God's image and so forth and so on, right? Either they're gonna hate it or they're gonna love it. And that's what it is. Now, it, I mean, that's just how I feel about it. And I rest my mic.
Thank you, Brother Ronnie. Well, we are over on time, but we're going to go ahead and move to closing comments. Looks like Doc is out. Go ahead, Sister Neff, go give your closing comments, then Sister Gwen, Brother Ronnie, and then we'll go back to Doc.
My closing comment. I need access to the links from the source material from today. And I think my greatest takeaway this evening was that the journey to liberation is one for lifetimes. So if you're coming in thinking it's going to be short and sweet, it's going to look pretty, and you're going to be able to walk away, with all of the things you imagine, then you're probably in the wrong fight. You're in the wrong walk. It's a liberty. You live it, and you never stop living that, even in your old age, no matter how young you are. So seeing even my father come into the revelation that this fight also belongs to him. The reality is it does belong to all of us, and the torch has been passed on. And it's up to us to continue to carry the torch, not only for ourselves, but for our children, for our fellow brothers and sisters, for our friends, for our community, and for our entire race. For lifetimes, plural.
All right, thank you, Sister Neff. Sister Gwen?
Okay. I usually say power and blessings, which I'll say my usual stuff, power and blessings, destroy the demons, and I'm going to add, don't feed the demons. They start stuff to make you spend your energy on them because they're energy vampires. So don't feed them. Don't let them manipulate you into giving them your energy, getting mad at them, or spending emotional energy on them. Stay calm, keep yourself calm. Don't let them manipulate you and use you to feed them. So that's what I'm gonna add. Don't feed the demons or demon kin.
Excellent. Thank you, Sister Gwen. Brother Ronnie?
Yeah, this was a very good meeting. I'd also like a couple of the links of the videos that I don't have. And yes, the torch has been passed to us, but I think it's time that we set the flame to the plantation. And that's all I'm gonna say on that. And I rest my mic.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Ronnie. Doc, your closing comments?
Just love being here with family building. I deal with a lot of the other people through the week. I did a NPR interview yesterday. I did some magazine work where they're finally honoring the 17 brothers that they hung and put in unmarked graves with the Camp Logan riot. So it's always good to be amongst your own and to be able to relax and understand that a unwarranted attack is not right around the corner. So love you all. And thank you for having a safe place of refuge that I can come and experience intellectual give and take and learn from everyone. Love you all.
Love you too, Doc. When is your NPR interview? When is it going to play?
Oh, it played yesterday. It was live.
Oh,
so I have the link. I'll give you the link, and you can. We of course we were talking about critical race theory. So yeah. So I'll get you the link.
Okay.
But I got this other thing that I'm working on that got a plan, brother.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And so for my closing comments, I want to say to our panel, thank you all for coming. Thank you for sharing your love for our people and knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And I would just say, We ain't got time to be forgiving and wishing these demons that they'll go to some heaven. No, they deserve everything that they're going to get. They've earned it. They've earned it. So don't have no sympathy in your heart for them. They don't have none for you. They don't have anything for you. And I truly believe, I truly believe they are going to pay for everything that they have done. That is the way of our God. They've earned it and they're going to get it. So as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm going to kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.